Before we begin, this episode does contain conversation around suicide and mental health issues, and therefore listener discretion is advised. Kate Adamczyk, thanks for coming out to see us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Really happy to be here.
Good. Well, a difficult subject, so straight into it.
Yeah.
How many people die by suicide in construction each year?
So we don't have an exact number, but what we do know is that suicide is the biggest cause of death for men under 35. We know that 4 out of 5 suicides are done by men. And if you work in the construction industry, in 2020, the research showed that you are 3.7 times more likely to die by suicide. So it's a huge thing in the construction and in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think just specifically in construction, what do you think are the main causes and the numbers that you see at the EIC? Mm-hmm. How likely do you think those numbers are to rise?
So I guess two questions there, but
yeah.
I think some of the causes around it is obviously, particularly in the electrical industry, it's a very male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
I think it's something around 80-85% of our industry is male, and as you go more senior, that increases. Mm-hmm. And we know that suicide affects men more than it does women. So I think that's an element. It's a very high-pressured environment, our industry. There's long hours, there's tight contracts for people to do, there's a lot of time away from home and from loved ones, and there is that pressure either of managing budgets or running your own business, so it's kind of all on you. So there's reasons behind it, and also as an industry we're not great about talking about these kind of things. So there'll be people suffering in silence, not feeling able to talk about these things. And do we see it rising? I mean, I can't give you, a yes or no, but I think unless we do address some of the mental health issues that we're seeing in our industry, then yes, it will continue to be an issue, and the likelihood is that death by suicide will rise.
Yeah, it's not good at all. I mean, it seems to be, I know we're in Mental Health Month now.
Yes.
Which is obviously a good thing, but it's a shame that we need a dedicated month. I know what we were talking before, and there's undoubtedly going to be people that when they're broached with this or approached with this subject or exposed to this subject, there might be that inclination to not treat it with the level of... I'll say, respect or severity or seriousness that perhaps it deserves. And I know that there's always going to be people that take advantage of any situation.
Yes.
But really, from what we were talking about beforehand, and I think we can probably all attest to it, it's, in terms of trying to find a solution, is the first, I say quick win. But is it just knowing that within our industry and the business, the company that you work for, you can have a conversation?
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we can do as an industry to help kind of mental health and to raise the awareness of it and make people feel more comfortable. I mean, there is a lot of people that don't feel comfortable disclosing to their employer that they have got mental health challenges, and that's just a fact. And I think as an industry we need to create more of those safe spaces. It needs to be a conversation that's not shied away from, and I think a lot of the times people maybe do shy away from it because they don't know what to say or they don't know how to handle it, which is perfectly okay. That's what we're there for, the charity. Even if people in our industry are just telling others that we exist, just checking in. If you see something that maybe someone's a bit off or they might be struggling a bit, if the only thing you do is tell them about the EIC, that's a step forward. But businesses and employers in our industry have to start taking mental health seriously. And we've definitely seen a change, a shift in the last 12 to 18 months around that, and companies are really taking it seriously. You know, things like they've got wellbeing programs, and they've got people in the business that people can go to and talk to. So there's definitely been a change, and we're going in the right direction. But we need to do more, and we just need to create those safe environments and take it seriously.
Okay. And where do you think, because again, like as you've said, our industry is very male dominated, and certainly even more so as you get as you get into the old guard, if you like. How much of this can we put into pull yourself up by your bootstraps and away you go? And I know that I personally think there's an element to that in there. And I'm not speaking on behalf of Metpro, and I'm speaking for myself. I do think there's a societal push to be a victim, which I don't think helps people, because I do believe that people start to go on that downward spiral almost because that's the trendy thing to do. And I don't like that. But I also, at the same time, having experienced some stuff myself with mental health, that you do need to reach out and have the conversation. So how can we? I mean, in terms of demographics within construction, is it the younger males that are suffering the most?
So we've definitely seen an increase in kind of our young people in the industry and apprentices coming for us for help.
Right.
And suffering from that. And I think, that's an element of the world that we live in now. And we've all gone through the COVID pandemic and the cost of living crisis, and that hits, particularly the cost of living crisis hits our younger people and apprentices more so. They're the lowest paid people, right? So we've definitely seen an increase in that. But also, we see a lot come through from people that have retired. So, you know that in our industry, it's kind of like once you're in, you're in. If you stay for 2 years, then you're in. That's it.
It's true.
So there's a lot of people that have worked in the industry for over 30 years, and it is long hours and it is away from home, etc. And then all of a sudden they're retired, and it's like, oh, what do I do now, right? And I think in some ways it can be more challenging for that demographic, because they are a bit from the old guard, and and it is very much just pull your socks up and get on with it, right? And don't talk about mental health, or don't show vulnerability, etc. So I think there's kind of two elements. Of course, there's all the in between, and as you said, yes, I appreciate what you're saying about kind of sometimes there's this element of maybe taking advantage of what's happening in the world now, but we still need to take it seriously.
100%.
And, and I think it is just about that reaching out. And for different people, it will be different ways of doing that. And it will be, some people might feel comfortable talking to their family or friends about these things. Some people might feel comfortable talking to colleagues, but a lot of people won't, right? And you need that independent thing. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone that doesn't know you, right? And doesn't know anything about you, to give you that neutral opinion, if you like. I think we'll say it a lot throughout this, but it's about talking and it's about reaching out, and particularly on the demographic of like the young people, we know that in our industry there's a huge problem attracting people into this industry. It's not seen as sexy or glamorous or anything like that. There's a huge problem. So not only younger people, but more diversity and more women into the industry and all of those things, and unless we catch up with the rest of the world from a mental health perspective, yes, we're a slightly old-fashioned industry, but unless we catch up with them, we're never going to attract and nurture and keep those people. And we're always going to have these challenges around mental health. I agree. And I mean, I think out in the wider context outside of just construction, when you see how much things like social media dominate everyday life now, my outlook isn't great on mental health. I do see it just continually getting worse.
So yeah, I think the more that we can do now and have just really blunt, honest, open conversations,
Yeah.
it's only going to have a positive impact.